Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but tonight we are continuing our free-for-all month, where we are just either talking about films that we voted in or what have you. So, Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film that was chosen for tonight's discussion?
So we have the 1975 movie directed by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is a nice little historical drama about King Arthur and his knights as they seek the Holy Grail and have many perils in their way. Much too perilous.
Can't I have a little peril?
But it's a very entertaining film, and we'll start with one of my favorites. But we'll start with actually Dave. Is this your first time seeing Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
No, it's not my first time, and it's definitely not going to be my last because this film is a favorite of mine of the British cinema, and it's just so off the wall and oddball humor that not everyone gets, but it is entertaining, and the things that they were able to do on a small tight budget, and the things that they had to go up against just to show like the different little bits. Like I heard that Scotland actually like banned them from using any real pictures of castles because they were concerned with how their images would be portrayed on screen. So, but yeah, I enjoy this film. Not exactly sure when I first saw it, but I think my dad was a fan of this film, and I think I saw it with him the first time when he got it on DVD, and then it was later that I picked it up on DVD myself. So, I'm glad I have it in the collection, and evidently Tammy likes it too because it's in her collection, and yeah, it's one that I like to revisit off and on.
Well, while we're on that subject, Tammy, is this your first time seeing this film?
No, I didn't meet my father till I was 12 years old, and this was one of the ones, he thought he would educate me on certain movies, and this was one of them. Mel Brooks movies, and this movie, and it's another bunch of them, which I've already, as we've come across them on our show, I've said, Dad turned me on to that. Well, this is another Dad turned me on to it. I do remember watching it with him the first time, and I might not have gotten all the humor of it back then, but it was still a lot of fun to watch. And as I got older and watched it, I got more and more and more of the humor of it, of course, But yeah, it's always been fun, and like I said, it's always been kind of special. Any of the ones that Dad's turned me on to, I've kind of like remembered. Dad turned me on to that. Dad turned me on to that. So it makes it more fun.
It does. It does indeed. Is that all?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off or anything.
I was just going to say real quick, it's funny that you specifically mentioned Mel Brooks, because I was reading that Terry Gilliam has cited Brooks as one of the only American directors that he thinks gets their humor, because he feels like Brooks is the only other person who's willing to go there when it comes to death and kind of taboo issues.
Well, let's see here. So, Kroll, was this your first time seeing Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Kroll?
Unfortunately, no. I watched it when I was young. Not sure exactly when. Obviously, not the year it came out, since I was only 2, or 1. Yeah, 74. So yeah, 1. I was definitely pretty young. Didn't get the humor at all because I was too young. And just the whole thing was. I felt like my imagination was better. So it felt so cheesy and just absolutely horribly done. It felt like just slightly like the puppets in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but I like those better. Um, I know a lot of people love this movie, and I'm sorry I'm trashing over it, but that's just how I feel about it. I love medieval. I absolutely do. I love comedy. I love parody. It checks all the boxes off of things I love, but it's just the way it was brought up. Now, that being said, years later, I now get the jokes. So I did find them mildly entertaining. Not hugely, with the exception of one song where I did definitely laugh out loud. Um, Rest of the songs were kind of annoying to me. But that one song I did laugh and was hilarious. Now the knee thing I found kind of annoying, but um, I've been saying the night say knee long before I remembered about this movie, and then so I knew it came from this movie. But there was one other thing that I always used to say. Oh yeah, I fart in your general direction, and I didn't even know it came from this movie. Like I guess it just my mind remembered it, and I just didn't remember where it came from. And I remember I say that all the time. And so when I heard it, I was like, "Oh shit, that's where
It's
that came from."
very
So
quotable. Very
yeah,
quotable film.
yeah. There's definitely different quotes in there. The strawberry one I've heard. I was actually in a guild in EverQuest 1 that was called the Knights of St. Me. So obviously I know what it was about, and I was probably one of the few people in the guild that was not a fan of the movie, but everything in that guild, the titles and everything, all had to do with the movie, and they were always quoting the movie because they loved it. But yeah, they were fun people, despite me not being I think the fans of the movie are fun, whereas not the movie, not as much. But like I said, I like it better as an adult, because I get the jokes, you know. I mean, I don't find them laugh out loud, Jim Carrey funny, but they're mildly amusing to me. So, but that's how British humor is definitely a different taste. Some of it I absolutely love, and I just die laughing, and I can't get enough of it. And then there's others just like tumbleweeds. Like, okay, that was supposed to be funny, you know. I love comedy, but yeah, everyone has different tastes with comedy. So, yeah, this one wasn't really my cup of tea, but it was definitely better than the first time I watched it. So, probably won't be another time, but who knows down the road I might end up having to end up watching it another time. But it's definitely not going to be on my list.
Hey, at least it was a little bit better this time around.
I agree. I was hoping it would be. I was thinking, I'm older now, so maybe it'll be better, and maybe I can enjoy it some, which I did enjoy a little bit. So, I did understand why they didn't have horses, and they were pretending to have horses, and like when I was a kid, I didn't understand that, and so why they didn't have horses. Why they jumping around like idiots. Which I thought as a kid. Yeah. I mean, I get it now. I get the jokes, even the the looking, the visual jokes. So, yeah.
There you go. Well, I guess next up is Jake. Was this your first time seeing Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
No, go away. I shall talk to you a second time. Well, I have definitely seen this a few times over the years. And as Kroll said, people take to this movie in different ways. Some people are right and some people are wrong. I will agree with this. That yes,
Yeah, but Jacob, I won't tell you you're wrong to your face.
I will tell you this, that I do agree that the film looks cheap and shoddy, and that has always been one of my biggest gripes about it. But I am well aware of the reasons for that. One being that you had a group of TV actors who were directing their own film with no cinema experience. And what's more, you had two co-directors who had very different interests. Apparently, Gilliam was all about the visual humor and the technical aspects, and Jones was all about the ensemble humor and the acting part of it, and it didn't always mesh well. We talked last week about a troubled production. This one apparently had a troubled production. Everyone hated working in Scotland. So there were some issues that they had to overcome. And yes, the film does look like a low budget made for television production much of the time. So that is a legitimate gripe that I've always kind of had about the movie. But as far as the humor, I'm sorry, but like I said, some people are right and some people are wrong. This is the funniest damn movie ever made. But at any rate,
and I know you've seen Liar Liar, so you're a liar.
Liar Liar's a funny movie. Liar Liar's a funny movie.
No, it's the funniest. That is the
funny.
funniest movie ever made. That's the funniest movie ever made.
But at any rate, I also mentioned last week with Mario Brothers, I was talking about movies that are kind of rites of passage. This is one of them, in my opinion, because people in our generation, you guys might back me up on this. It sounded like some of your backstories would back this up. I was introduced to it a little later. It wasn't through my dad. My dad, I think, had seen the movie, but I don't think he'd really put much stock into it. And then I think when I brought it home, he was kind of like, oh yeah, that one.
It was my mom, by the way, that showed me the movie, because she loved British everything. It was my mom that showed me. I gotta say that. She loved everything British.
I was introduced to this, I believe, in high school. I think it was through my classmates. And I cannot remember. It's a chicken or egg thing. I can't remember if I started watching Monty Python first and then the PBS block on Saturday nights, but I think it was the other way around, because I also know it was through my classmates that I was introduced to Mr. Bean, and I think that was why I started watching the Saturday night block. And Mr. Bean's all right. I've always enjoyed it. I like Rowan Atkinson as an actor, but I really enjoyed Keeping Up Appearances, and I flat loved Are You Being Served? And those were the ones that really got me into the Britcoms. But then I was told about, I think it was that first. And then I was told about Monty Python. And I think I was primed I watched this one and then Life of Brian, then Meaning of Life. And it was a long time before I started watching Flying Circus. I had seen several sketches before I actually started watching Flying Circus. And I became a huge Monty Python fan in college. I mean, you almost cannot not be a Monty Python fan. At least in my college experience, most of the kids loved it. There were posters everywhere. There were memes everywhere. It was the thing to do. And actually, Kroll, one of my more favorite recent memes, you probably, I know you saw this. was the one, the Revenge of the Sith one with Obi-Wan and Anakin with the quotes from the Black Knight battle. That's a great meme there. But, and I know you being a Star Wars nut, hopefully you at least appreciate
I
that.
don't think I've seen that meme, but yeah, I
The
probably.
one where Anakin's going, "I'm invincible." You're a loony.
Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't
bite
seen
your leg
it.
off.
I haven't seen it, but I definitely could picture it in my head. So that definitely would be a great meme.
Right.
Well, it is a great meme, I guess, but it was definitely. If I see it, I'll definitely laugh. I definitely agree that. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of. I think the social aspect of the movie, like all the great memes and all the great talks and all the things people say about the movie is better than the actual movie itself, in my opinion.
I could
Yeah.
kind of see that. Like, it definitely became a pop culture phenomenon. And actually, one of the IMDb bits I read was that they said that when they debuted it in New York, after a day, there were people waiting around the block to see the movie. And they just kind of went in and started watching the movie with the audience just to gauge the reaction. And two young up-and-coming actors that they ran into who said they loved the movie were John Belushi and Gilda Radner. And so it's like kind of nice to see that influence, even from the get-go. This definitely influenced many things down the road. And I will freely admit, as movies go, this is a better movie, at least marginally, than Meaning of Life. But Life of Brian blows them both out of the water. Life of Brian is easily the best Monty Python film, with bar none. But this one, it still has a spot in my heart. I can quote most of the movie. Probably not correctly in every instance, but at least a good chunk of it. It has several moments that I absolutely love. The French, and we'll talk about them as we go. But and I've got the French taunter up there as my that's my little screenshot there. But
he was kind of funny.
And I'll admit, if you saw this first when you were very young, I am not at all surprised that I thought in your general direction is the one thing you remembered. Because that's something kids are going to remember.
Yes.
But the
no, like I said, but I didn't remember where it came from.
But like I said, though, this one, it is kind of a rite of passage because it's become such a pop culture phenomenon, really. And honestly, I'm not sure that we're going to say anything tonight that people haven't heard 100 times already, but we can still throw in our two cents about it. But it is, in my mind, it is, I said the funniest film of all time, but really that's subjective. That changes with my mood. And recently, some of the things I've learned about John Cleese in particular, but Graham Chapman, Eric Idle, apparently they're a bunch of assholes in terms of their personal life. It's put some of the bloom off of the rose for their humor. But on the other hand, the six of them together were comic gold. they were brilliant. And even if it was, unfortunately, with a side helping of misogyny and some unfortunate things, particularly in Flying Circus, they went in some unfortunate directions. When they were on. They were friggin' hilarious. And I love this movie, flaws and all.
All right. Well, my whole experience, this is definitely not my first time watching it. I was interested because I can't remember when I cannot remember when when Comedy Central first started as a channel, but I remember first catching the Flying Circus off and on, and I didn't quite get the humor back then. especially Flying Circus, because Flying Circus can be hit or miss. With a lot of those comedy shows. I mean, I've seen some of the early work.
Sketch comedy show, yeah.
Like the I think the 1948 show and do not adjust your TV set or whatever it is. The other ones that they did prior to, but I was first introduced really to British humor through my history teacher in high school. Who in ninth grade, whenever he wanted to just, do something fun for the class, he would show Blackadder episodes.
Nice.
Which was my first introduction to Rowan Atkins. I have a hard time. I need to watch Mr. Bean, but everything I've seen with Mr. Bean annoys me. So like I say, humor is very different for each way.
Right.
So whereas I understand people not getting this one, just like certain movies I don't get the humor of, but this one's been in my top 10 for a long time. I took European history class with that same professor because he liked to use a lot of comedy in his teaching, and we all really enjoyed it. And he used a lot of humor similar. I mean, he declared himself the emperor of the world. He says, it's good until somebody challenges you, and nobody's challenged me yet. And he sounded just like the guy in A Princess Bride. Was it Vicini, whatever his name was? The inconceivable guy.
Vicini.
And he would never say that for us because he knew, and he would never say that for us. But our big thing that we did at the end of European history was we had a medieval dinner where we would basically eat a traditional medieval meal that would have been served to the nobility at the time with the same implements that they would use to eat with. And then and we would watch a movie. And this was the film that we watched, and that was the first time I watched it. And I've watched it many times since then. Again, it never gets old for me. I'd gone a long time. I had the 40th anniversary collection for this, so which is, by the way, up here on this. And to this day, I really enjoy the film. Matter of fact, I watched it again with Kim, and even Kim was laughing with it, so that was something. So definitely one of my top 10 favorite films. Though it's never been, I think, number one, it's always been within that top 10. So I guess we will get started.
How close is this one for you in terms of rewatching? How close is this one to you to History of the World Part 1?
This is pulled ahead of History of the World Part 1, but I've watched History of the World Part 1 way more.
I think I've watched that one way more too, and of course my dad introduced me to that one too.
A good Mel Brooks film, one we have to cover one day. I'll have to. That's the thing is, I think the problem with History of the World is I watched it so many times that I wore myself out on it, which is so it'll be interesting to watch it again after not watching it for over a decade.
Spaceballs is still my favorite, but Blazing Saddles is probably second. History World is good, but yeah, there's so many great Mel Brooks movies out there. What's
funny that you mentioned Blazing Saddles, because when all this stuff the last couple of years has happened about censoring this and changing names of things because of this and that and everything else, somebody had posted, well, if you're gonna sit here and try and do that, they put it up Blazing Saddles. This is the beginning of the movie, and then they would bleep, and they said, okay, now you're at the end of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mel Brooks and the Pythons actually both had some similar humor
Right.
takes, especially when it came to we're not afraid of going, as Jacob said, going places that society these days. I really don't think that a lot of if anybody is using presentism to view, first off, anyone using presentism to view movies with is wrong, in my opinion. But anyone using it for this film is very wrong because it would not hold up for that. But well, let's get started with this. We got a little ways to go. I wanted to start with one joke that was the first thing I noticed as a high schooler, and to this day is oddly enough the first thing I noticed is that of course is the opening credits where you have Swedish subtitles, which results in the subtitlers getting sacked and them having to do switch up the opening credits part way to a bunch of llamas apparently.
Well, then there was a whole bunch.
I didn't know it was Swedish, but I did know it was some kind of subtitle, and I just thought
Yeah.
that was a little funny. So,
And then
yeah.
there was a whole bunch of things mentioning a moose in the opening and stuff, and my
Yes.
dad was getting a kick out of that because everybody calls him moose. So my dad's just sitting there pointing at the screen, moose.
Like the you get some really, really, really crazy moose credits as you're going, which I really enjoy. Like what was I can't remember offhand, but one of them's like moose that is trained to solve complex equations while
It was a really long
I
subtitle.
know my dad
Yeah.
kept every time something with the moose came up,
Yeah.
he was saying it and laughing and pointing, moose, moose.
Right.
I mean-
Supposedly, Michael Palin was the one that suggested that they do the Swedish to kind of make it sound like we're getting ready to watch an Ingmar Bergman film.
Yeah. I still, even though maybe it's not for me to laugh at, but just when they're like weak, also weak,
Yes.
also weak. But the way they do it is they have it goes to that, then they goes into the why not consider a vacation in Sweden this year? And then he goes into this moose story. Then they say, well, the writers have been sacked. Then it comes right back up with, and mind you, moose bites can be very nasty. And then they cut it again. And that's when they come back and then everybody is moose related in the credits.
It's like, or the way he said it
And
is
the
like
directors are a bunch of llamas.
the people responsible for subtitling this film have been sacked. The people who sacked, or the producers wish you to know that the people responsible for sacking the people have themselves been sacked. You know, it gets it. That was something I probably didn't catch on
And then there was
first
another one.
I'm not sure I really caught that on first
There-
viewing, but since then I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was.
There's
I'm
another
trying to
one
see.
too. That
Or how about the intermission that's like 3/4 of the way into the film?
Yeah.
So
there's another one with the sacking too. Someone said, "I'd like to know that, like you guys like to know that we were sacked." The one that are writing it, like they were talking about, like people that were sacked were writing in that they were sacked after other people were sacked.
So the one that I had a hard time reading with because of the length, this is how it goes. It's like a moose once bit my sister. No, really. She was carving her initials on the moose with the sharpened end of an interspaced toothbrush given to her by Sven, her brother-in-law, an Oslo dentist and a star of many Norwegian movies. The hot hands of the Oslo dentist, fillings of passion, the huge molars of Horst Nordfink, and then it cut to the sacking, and then he goes, "Mind you, moose bites can be pretty nasty." It's worth it to slow down the credits at that because it is an entertaining little story that he tells. But that gives you right away you get the idea of what's going on with this film, and but then we're introduced to Arthur, who you hear the horses, but instead it's Arthur pretending to ride a fake horse while he's followed by his squire using coconuts.
And everyone knows the story behind that. Of course, they couldn't afford horses on set.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford horse wranglers and all that stuff. So they used coconuts, which is an old stage thing. But that opening dialogue where he's trying seriously to round up Knights for the Round Table, and the people in the film are distracted by the coconuts. And it just leads to just one of the all-time great dialogues. And I don't know.
They don't even get the Lord for him. He gets tired and leaves.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, for me, the line, "Are you suggesting coconuts migrate?" Just, that always cracked me up.
But what is the swallow? Are these not? It's like, are these not strangers for your life? And that's like, oh.
And then of course it's the question that comes up at the bridge of death.
Yes.
They bring it back.
Are these English, British swallows or what was the other one?
Sure, African swallows.
Because the two people up on the ramparts get into this debate over which swallows could actually carry the coconuts, and that's when Arthur and Patsy wander off. That's
they'd have to have it on a line.
Yeah. It's simple. Use a strand of tree bark. And I believe that was Michael Palin and John Cleese on the ramparts, right? I know. And you got, of course, Graham Chapman is Arthur. So he's our central guy. And Terry Gilliam is Patsy. Which I love that the king's footman is named Patsy.
But, I mean, you have that part.
It's pretty funny.
And then I think it is Arthur meets with the Black Knight after that.
It's pretty soon after that, yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because it starts with this fight between the Black Knight and the Green Knight, which is interesting that the Green Knight is not the one used for this, because it would make much more sense with what happens to the Green Knight in the Arthurian tales. But the Black Knight obviously doesn't play entirely fair. Well, as he does, and bests him, and Arthur is like, hey, you can join me, and he's like, nah, and I'm not gonna let you pass. Well, he didn't say anything, but he says you cannot pass.
None shall pass.
And they have a very entertaining fight where many a limb is rended from the body. But
no, it's not. It's only a flesh wound. Have at these.
This is a famous one.
I think it was Gilliam. I can't remember. Right. I think it was Gilliam who was saying, I can't remember. One of them, I read the trivia of one of them had said that, again, when they brought it to the States, this was like the Vietnam era. This was, people didn't want to see horrible, bloody violence, especially in their comedies. And he said that people were watching that whole scene just kind of like, ugh. But then when he lost the final limb and he's just sitting there on the ground with no limbs left, that's when everyone knew that this is completely absurd, and they all started laughing.
All right, we'll call it a draw.
Right. Exactly. Come back here. I'll bite your legs off.
So
this is some strong teeth.
I know not all the comedy hit for you, Ron, but hopefully that one definitely hit for you.
It was a little funny, and seeing like I said, the first one, it's just a scratch. I cut your arm off. It's right there. No, I still have my arm. He's denying everything that's being done to him. He loses his arm, then loses both his arms, then he loses his leg, and his other leg.
That is something that has been quoted many a time over the years, that it's only a scratch, it's only a flesh wound. And then at the end, when he says, all right, we'll call it a draw.
It's like, but a scratch. You lie.
Come on.
I also love where he's sitting there. He's taken both of his arms, so he's sitting down, kneeling and praying, and then the guy kicks him in the face.
Yeah. All right, I'll do you for that. What you gonna do, bleed on me? And apparently, the knight was played by John Cleese, but they actually found a one-legged actor to play him for that one portion of the fight. And then I think they apparently used a puppet after he ran out of limbs. But and this was an example, I think, of things they thought of during and after the film that worked. Like, apparently they wanted to disguise Cleese's voice so you wouldn't have any idea it was him. But the no one does insufferable, self-righteous pomp quite like John Cleese. And I can't imagine a better voice for that night.
And no better actor for Lancelot in the same way.
Exactly.
But after the night, we finally get introduced to our first knight of the Round Table.
We also have the Bring Out Your Dead scene.
Oh yeah, and I forgot about the Bring Out Your Dead with the monks doing the chant and hitting themselves in the head with.
How did you forget about one of the best scenes in the movie?
Who's that? He must be a king. How do you know? Well, he hasn't got shit all over him. But and also
there was
that
I'm not dead. I'm not dead. He's almost dead. I don't want to go on the cart.
Yeah.
Preaching better.
Come on, you big baby. Yeah, that again, this we'd be here all night if we quoted all the good lines. There's just so many. But for me personally, before we get to Bedimir, the other early notable scene is probably one of my favorites, and that's the one with Dennis.
Yes, I was there.
He comes up, old woman, man, sorry, I'm 37. And he's like, I'm 37, I'm not old.
But 37 was very old in the Middle Ages.
yeah, exactly. But he basically, Arthur's like, who's in that castle? And he's like, well, he tells him that they're an autonomous collective. And then his wife comes over, and this was played by Terry Jones. It's like the only woman played by a man in the movie, and in most of Python stuff, Jones played a lot of women, and some of the other characters played women too. Instead of, this was one of the few where they had a lot more women in those roles. But you do have Jones in that one, high pitched kind of,
oh yeah, it's typical voice for that.
I didn't know we had a king. I thought we were an autonomous collective. But my favorite part on that is where they go into the discussion of how Arthur became the king, and and what that actually really means.
Or did you vote for you?
Yeah, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for kings. Why'd you become king then? The lady of the lake.
Some lady in the lake throwing a sword at you, and you're a king?
Held aloft Excalibur from the bosom of the water, signifying by divine providence that I, Arthur, was to be your king. That is why I'm your king. Listen, strange women, lying in pawns, distributing swords is a no basis for a system of government.
Some the scimitar at me.
Yeah, if I went around saying I was an emperor because some moistened people, they'd put me away. Yeah, it's like I said, I love that whole because it is absurd. It completely deflates the entire Arthurian legend and just turns it on its head as a completely absurd legend to have, and they play it absolutely straight. And Michael Palin is Dennis in this scene, and I just loved it. That's probably one of my favorite scenes of any comedy movie
And it comes back later because you can hear
Yeah.
them discussing it later on when they're traveling.
Right.
But does anybody else have anything to say about those scenes?
I do know when I watched this the first time with my dad that he would interject things as we were watching it and stuff like, "Did you get that?" or "Did you get that?" Or whatever, to try to help me understand all the humor. So it was, it made it more fun then too. Because it's, oh, okay, oh yeah, okay, got it now, Dad. Okay, you know. Because I remember one of his favorite things was the horse thing. You
Yes.
know, that was one of his favorites. When they first start out and you can hear hear him doing it, he was laughing before you could even see anybody. Because he knew what was coming. And then I'm watching it watching him come up. And I'm like, I remember just looking at it, going, "Well, where's the horse?" Well, I didn't know.
That's how I was, dude. I was like, "Where the
Right.
hell's the horse? This is stupid."
Actually, I think that the cheapness of the movie actually lent itself to the comedy, in my opinion. But
Yeah, it would have looked more out of place if it was really polished and everything, and they were still using coconuts. Yeah.
or shoot, even if they had horses, I mean, I don't think it would have been as charming in many ways
No.
as the film itself is. No. But it's still, I mean, yeah, it's still very entertaining. I guess we'll move on to Sir Bedivere, which is a great
He's a
witch.
witch!
Or is
This
this
is a great witch scene.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And this is another thing, and again, one thing that I just personally goes to me is like the whole witch thing. Like, I am absolutely ashamed of the fact that the Salem witch trials are part of American history. It's just this whole thing is so seeing them completely take the piss on that. I loved it, but also just the way you had the main rabble rousers. I think were Michael Palin, Eric Idle, and John Cleese. And then you got, of course, Terry Jones is Bedimere. And just that little scene between them, Patsy and Arthur come in on this scene where they're trying to burn this woman. And you got Bedimere calmly using logic and quote unquote science to talk these morons through. Like we keep mentioning Mel Brooks, and in Blazing Saddles, there's the one part where Gene Wilder is talking about like these are good, salt to the earth, normal, ordinary people, morons.
Exactly. She
That was
turned me into a newt.
Well, I got better.
Yeah, man, I love that witch scene was definitely one that I love myself. I mean, being one myself, I just I love that they made fun of it. It's you don't see that often enough.
What also
'Cause
floats
it was
bread, apples,
ludicrous why they
very small
would burn
rocks.
people as consider themselves witches.
I did like how Arthur is the one who comes up with the solution because he was right along that wavelength.
Right.
A duck, and then, which I'm sorry, that was not on my that leap was a bit much for my logic.
But
Yeah,
on the,
and they
but on
bring
the
out
other
kind
hand,
of stuff.
Bedimere's impressed. Who are you who are so wise in the ways of science?
If she weighs the same as a duck, and she's made of wood. And she's made of wood, and he's like trying to lead them, and it's like she's a witch.
Right.
And somehow she's actually weighs she weighs less than the duck. But if you look at the scale, it's definitely weighted against it.
Did we talk about how the whole thing opened out? Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Here's one.
Ninepence.
I'm not dead yet.
You're not fooling anyone, you know.
Yes, yes, because that was one of my favorite scenes. So
Yeah, there's a couple scenes back, but yeah, it's good times.
I will say that the monks that they use there, and they use that chant with them hitting themselves in the head as they go. I was kind of anti-religion as a teen in some ways, and the absurdity of how it made it look made me laugh so much as a teen, because sometimes there were a lot of absurd self-flagellation practices done by the Catholic Church back in those days. So actually, the sad thing is that probably wouldn't have been out of place back then.
and the thing is, the Pythons, this was their main, I think, probably their main religious job in this movie. But they, like I said, Life of Brian was all about, supposedly in the press tour for this one, Eric, they asked them, what's your next project? And Eric Idle responded, Jesus Christ, lust for glory. And then that kind of stuck. And so they ended up doing not Jesus Christ, but the guy born in the manger next door. And then, of course, in Flying Circus, one of their most famous sketches was the Spanish Inquisition sketch. And that's a great example of them going there, doing something that would probably scare most comedians off.
I always group Life of Brian and Holy Moses in together. So
yeah.
Another one along the similar veins, really, except instead of Jesus, it's Moses that he's alongside of.
Right. Those would both be good ones to hit one of these days.
But when we get them, they kind of go to the storybook thing where they talk about all the other knights. We've got Sir Robin, we've got of course Lancelot, and gosh, what were the other ones?
Galahad.
Yeah, Galahad. And I do like how they dwell on Sir Robin there about how cowardly he is, and every time they flip the page, he looks more and more terrified as the picture gets closer to him.
And had personally wet himself at the Battle of Bidmill. Right. And then, of course, once they're all assembled, to Camelot. Yeah. And then Patsy gets his only line in the movie. It's only a model. And then you get that great song, the Knights of the Round Table song, which I've always found that kind of amusing and silly. Of course, when it's over, Arthur's like, on second thought, let's not go to Camelot. It's a silly place.
Those knights are very destructive, but it does make sense if you're going to be dancing in full armor. It's going to be very destructive.
Yes.
Like I've been playing on Elden Ring, which is in the Souls series, and they actually legitimately show what you would be doing to furniture if you were running around in armor and jumped on it.
Right.
But
actually, Dave, you mentioned, I think, Dave, you were the one that mentioned that Scotland would not allow them to film in most of their castles.
Yeah, they had this idea that they would not show their castles in the right imagery.
Right, because they were making fun of history, yeah. Apparently, they found a couple of private castles they were able to use. But yes, Camelot, and I think there was another one that was shown from a distance that were actually models because they couldn't show distant shots of these castles. So that was apparently originally Gilliam was going to play a fourth wall breaking knight, and they kind of downgraded his role to Patsy, and he only ended up with that one line. But that one line was to break the fourth wall and say it's only a model.
Wasn't this the start of Gilliam's directorial career as far as movies?
Well, he and Jones both. This was their first movie
Yeah.
directing, and they, by mutual agreement,
It was a
from
great
this
one.
time forward, Jones was the only one directing the other Python films, but Gilliam did kind of start branching out on his own. He made Jabberwocky, I think, the year before Life of Brian, or 2 years before, and then he made Time Bandits a couple years later. So he was definitely working solo by the time Meaning of Life came out.
And of course, Munchausen is getting a Criterion, which is going to be nice.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that if you're looking at the two, Gilliam definitely I think ended up directing a lot more and a lot more interesting films.
Jones is a historian, and he did a lot of stuff for like the History Channel and things like that. But in terms of feature films, Gilliam definitely did more there.
But what does did anybody else have anything to say on the Knights of the Round Table thing in Camelot?
Oh, Robin, I enjoyed his what was it? His minstrels.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
That was the best in the movie.
At first,
you're
he sung
skipping
of
ahead.
at first he sung of his bravery and his chastity or whatnot.
Now Galahad was the chaste one.
Or he sung of his bravery, I think.
His bravery.
But we'll definitely get to that in a little bit.
First of all, after leaving Camelot, I think
it's the Frenchmen after that because they finally.
As far as the Camelot, I thought the dancing, the music was kind of stupid, but the It's Only a Mortal definitely gave me a little crack, a little laugh. So I did enjoy that. I mean, the fourth wall breaking is pretty funny most of the time. That's why I love Deadpool. And She-Hulk as well. So I enjoyed that.
You gotta admit that they when they're sitting there doing the dance, and you show the one part of the guy who's the prisoner chained up also clapping along as they go.
I didn't see that, but
And I don't know what it is for me, but like in comedies, every now and then when I see every now and then you'll hear a word that's obviously mispronounced. Like really, really, this is not the way normal people say it. And sometimes those stick in my mind and I just really enjoy them. Like in Raising Arizona where High's wife or the one who becomes his wife, my fiance left me. I always remember stuff like that. But in this song, there's one lyric where they say the word indefatigable. And I don't know why. I just love that pronunciation. It amuses me every time I hear it. But anyway.
Well, Dustin is here. So we actually are just we're not fully getting started, but we're not all the way through yet. What was your first impression? Was this the first time watching this movie?
So I thought this was my first time trying to watch this movie. I think I have seen this before, and it was just so extremely forgettable that I forgot. I know a lot of people really like this, and a lot of the jokes in it are referenced constantly, but I don't really understand why. I don't know. Just it all felt pretty flat for me. I was actually kind of let down just because of the reputation this has as such a great comedy. Like almost every scene, I was like, "That's it. That's really it." Wow.
I don't know. I don't know why, but I would have thought you would have really gotten into the whole thing where the peasants were discussing being an autonomous collective and how they thought that the idea of monarchy, divine monarchy, was so absurd and stupid.
I think I may have somehow missed that. Because there were long stretches where it's like we're trying this weird word game comedy thing, and it's like, okay, I'm tuning out right now because it's very British, like it's very, very dry.
It is that.
It's definitely British, that's for sure.
There's some stuff that I enjoyed. I mean, there's the Black Knight Flesh Wound thing, which has been referenced to death everywhere. I mean, that's fine. I think my favorite joke was actually when they have the hand turning the pages and it's just randomly a gorilla suit hand. I think that might have been my favorite joke because it's like, okay, there's some life in this. That's good. And the Sir Galahad thing was pretty well done. How it starts, like an actual movie would. With this like grim and gritty, it's like I see something in the distance. He's like struggling in the wilderness, and then it gets. It doesn't go. That one doesn't go too far over the top, but it's still like absurd. I don't know. I think I probably fell asleep for like a good 20 minutes is my best guess, and that might have been when I missed the peasant talk. But at about the halfway point, I was like, oh, yeah, I have seen this before. And just had, like, no memory of it. So, yeah, I kind of debated on coming on because I wasn't sure if I'd have anything really positive to say.
Well, it's not always about the positive. It's good to have different points of view.
Believe it or not, you're not the only one in that camp on tonight.
Yeah, I did not. I like this better than the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it as a kid, so it was better this time because I actually got some of the jokes. But I still only found them mildly amusing, with the exception of one song I really enjoyed and one scene. So other than those two scenes and all, yeah, I was not. I absolutely agree that I'm not sure why it's such a cult and why people love it so much, but I do like the fact. Like I said, I like the social aspect of it. Like I've quoted some things from it, even though I don't like the movie itself. I like the quotes. So
there's some pretty funny things here and there.
I agree there.
I mean, the Sir Robin thing was pretty funny, like the first time.
That's the part. That's the part. The song, Sir Robin song, was absolutely fucking great. I absolutely loved it. I laughed out loud and laughed for a little bit. That was the only scene in the movie where I laughed out loud. Like I had little chuckles here and there, but that one I laughed out loud. So.
Well, we did see Gilliam's work because I believe he was the one who did most of the cartoony work in this. Is that right? Gilliam was behind the cartoon.
I was going to say, Gilliam did all the animation for both the show and the movies.
Oh, we got Forrest too with us then.
Well, I just got home.
Hey, Forrest.
Well, we get your first impression as well.
All right, so this is far from my first time watching it. I saw it the first time I saw it. I think I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. My dad was a big fan of it. I remember he showed it to me on television, but I wasn't quite into it. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, so I didn't quite get it. But then later on we watched it. But then later on, a friend of mine who actually, but then a few years later when I was a teenager, we watched it in Sunday school of all places.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Monty Python, and so it's kind of funny to think back on that. But then also a friend of mine him and his parents took me to a matinee screening of it at an old movie theater in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I just thought it was laugh out loud hilarious. Just nonstop, like beginning to end. There's so many great moments. So many great hilarious moments. From the coconuts to all the different places they stopped to, the Sir Robin song. For me, this is actually a must-watch every Easter, along with Life of Brian.
Well, they do have a bunny in this.
Yeah, well, the bunny plus also they're going for the chalice that Jesus drank out of. So perfect. So all the more reason to watch it for Easter.
Actually, we are
Yeah.
just at that part where the Holy Grail is introduced because we have the animation of God. And I do like how they've got guys like, why are you averting your eyes? Everybody does that.
It's like those depressing psalms.
This is just one of the greatest comedies. This is just one of the greatest comedies of all time. There's just never a dull moment. Top-notch cast, and they did so, and again, it's definitely one of those cases of doing a lot with not much, considering this was a very low budget movie.
I thought the I just wanted to check for a second. I thought the guy in the sky, I thought it was Merlin at first, and then I was, oh, it's supposed to be the Christian God, okay, and then what he was saying actually made sense and was kind of funny. But yeah, I was thinking it was Merlin at first.
I will say that it's actually very entertaining that we had Dustin's point of view and then your point of view back to back, because they are like polar opposites. So
yeah, I like how he
I came in the middle of Dustin's first impression. So Dustin, this was your first time watching it?
I thought it was my first time watching it. It was actually my second time. Because the first time I saw it, I basically just memory holed it. Like I said it. I'm trying to figure out like nice ways to say the things I already said.
I take it you weren't a fan.
No, I thought this movie was like really forgettable and really just kind of.
I disagree. It's forgettable. I think I want to forget it and I can't.
Well, I think it's one of the greatest comedies of all time. They've been quoted so much and referenced so much. I mean, you really forget them. Like a lot of times watching this, when I was watching this, it's like, oh, this is what that comes from.
So actually, I was going to ask, and I think I've said this before on the channel, and I don't think we've covered Casablanca yet. We need to one of these days.
Yes.
But the first time I saw Casablanca, I felt the whole time, I felt this sense of deja vu. Like, I have seen this movie before, but I had never seen it before. And was it like that for you, Dustin, when you were watching it? Or
a little bit, because apparently I've seen this before. So a lot of the people I hung out with in undergrad had seen this movie many times and liked to quote it all the time, but I was always like, what are you talking about? Like, we never actually sat down and watched it with them. So by the time I actually did see it, like, all the jokes were kind of spoiled and telegraphed. It's like, oh, that's where this is. Like I said, oh, that's what this is from. You know what I mean?
right.
So I think that worked pretty hard against it, actually. Like, it's kind of like the price of its own fame sort of thing. Like, I had the same problem with Psycho, actually. Like, I found myself bored senseless during Psycho the first time I saw it.
Psycho was a great movie.
Because it had been so heavily spoiled by just like surrounding culture. I mean, there was no surprise left, and The Exorcist was the same, except I still hate The Exorcist.
I was very lucky to have not had Psycho spoiled. I knew about there was the shower scene. I knew there was a shower scene where he was stabbing, but I did not realize the main spoiler that they do at the beginning, which I'll admit, seeing that spoiler free to start off with really does have a more positive impression.
Psycho is something that's been, every scene has been copied at least once in some other movie.
Probably.
So it's like.
See, with Psycho, I remember going to, so years ago when I was a kid, I went to Universal Studios and they used to have this Alfred Hitchcock attraction.
Yeah, I've been there.
And that's what got me interested in wanting to check out, like, I remember, and that was what got me interested in wanting to check out Psycho in the first place.
Yeah, I saw two Gio Fulci, the Dario Argento, George Romero film, and they have the guy who gets killed on the stairs in Psycho is in there. And there's a scene in the Argento story that he's in where he's like, wait, what's going on up there? And he walks upstairs the way Arbogast does before he gets stabbed. I think it was actually the guy who played Arbogast. And that's why they had that scene in there. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing.
You know Argento and watch
Before-
Psycho.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Forrest, did you go on the vertigo chair?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. But I remember.
Oh, it's great, dude. I did it. They strap you in this chair and they have you do the falling scene. Like my friend did this scene where he's like holding on to the wall, but I got to do the falling scene, and I just have me wave my arms and legs like I'm falling and shit. And you're in this chair where you're strapped to get fall, but you're falling all backwards, and it makes it look like you're actually falling.
Oh,
It's
nice.
really cool how it's done. It was fun as hell. I wish I could have gotten a copy of the video that they made. They didn't offer that. It's just you could see how they make it. But that was really fun.
Well, let's get back to the film at hand.
Indeed.
Well, with God sending them on the mission to get the Holy Grail, they ended up at their first stop is actually this castle. They're trying to find the Lord, and they're greeted by this Frenchman. I do love it, like where they're like, "We are French." We do this, like, what? We're in England. Why are you here? It's like none of your business.
Mind your business. Did you say mind your business?
That's why I have this ridiculous accent and mustache.
Right. And would you like to join us for the quest for the Holy Grail? He's already got one. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, I told him we already got one. Which is actually kind of funny considering that they actually do have it. But
right.
Do they actually have it?
Yeah, when we get to the end of the movie, it's actually there. I do also like that they're like, is there somebody else we can talk to?
I don't know that we confirm that they have it, but it is.
They think it's there. Yeah, they think
it's strong. It's strongly inferred that they have it
yes.
at the end of the movie, and I do like how they do this. Then, of course, they get frustrated with it, so they decide to charge the castle, which does not work.
Yeah.
Then they decide to.
We have all
livestock.
Yeah, fetch la vache.
Well, first we have the flying cow. You got to have the flying cow.
And the chickens.
I did make a joke when the chickens went flying. I'm like, no, that's foul.
Yeah, but yeah, I was sitting there. I kind of joked, I was like, anything where they use cow as a projectile weapon is going to be on Brandon's list. Greatest films ever made. But this one, this of course is also the scene. He's known as the French taunter for a reason. He does have some really great one-liners, and Crowley, you mentioned the one that every kid who's ever seen this movie remembers.
I fart in your general direction.
But my favorite one always was, your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. It's like, because what the hell does that even mean?
I like how he uses his hands to hit his head and sticks his tongue out at them.
Right.
I was grown at that because I knew people who said it all the time to the point where it's just like annoying. And so every time I hear it, I'm just like, shut up.
Well, there's a reason why it gets quoted like that, because it was so funny at the time.
For me, it was kind of cool to see like where the quotes came from. Like, I mean, I'd seen it before, but kind of didn't remember as a kid because I didn't want to remember it because I didn't like it. So as a kid, and didn't get the jokes. So I mean, I knew it was from that movie, just didn't really remember the scenes and stuff. So I thought it was interesting to see where they came from. And it was a little funnier, to a degree. Like I said, it was more of chuckles. I had to the movie, except for that one scene that I laughed. So I ain't quite hated it as much as Dustin does, but yeah.
It's actually entertaining for me because I had taken 4 years of French at the time, and so I understood any of the French that was going on.
So what was the order he gave?
Fetch la vache, get the cow. He actually literally said, "Get the cow," and I remembered it because they wouldn't teach us the fun words in French, but I learned how to say "fat cow" at the early age in French, and then I also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I remember when it got up to this scene, when that cow went flying, I just kind of like looked. I remember looking at my dad like, they shot a cow, and my
They
dad
use
was
the
just.
cows over.
I know, and my dad just sitting there laughing his butt off because I
Right.
was like, they just shot a cow over the thing.
Oh, I mean, Sir Bedivere does come up with a plan,
Yes.
which is they come up with
The
a Trojan
Trojan
rabbit,
rabbit.
and their idea is that they would jump out of the rabbit. They just forgot one important part, which was
Yeah.
Get in.
get
Rabbit.
But what happens now?
No.
Well,
Oh, you really saw the giant badger. Get out of here.
then they vault the then they basically catapult the rabbit at him. One of the things that's a joke that I got because I had some versing in French where they're sitting there and it's like, ooh, un cadeau. Like, what? A present. Oh. Which is like, yeah, these guys can't even speak French.
well, yeah, no, I caught one of those as they were leaving. What was it? They were
It looked like they were throwing cats over the wall to me.
Well, they were throwing everything over the wall.
there was a lot of
cats,
cat
everything.
abuse in this movie.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
They had like a peasant like taking a cat and slamming it against the wall.
Right.
I mean, they were fake cats. They weren't real cats, obviously, but still.
That's mean.
That's one of the things I did like about this movie was like with that scene. It's like, we already have it. Wait, you have it? And they're like, we told them we have it, and then they get their own castle attacked by an army looking for it. Like, I thought that was pretty funny. Although I missed the part at the end where it's like, no, they actually do have it, and it's like, oh, well, you brought this on yourself.
The was at this point where, because right before they separate, I believe then they have the historian talking about like medieval times, and then a knight comes through and just basically kills him in cold blood right up there, which is an important scene because it sets up the ending. And because when I told my wife about that, she's like, how does this have anything to do with the ending? Trust me, I didn't get the ending the first time I watched it. I had to wait. I had to sit through this a second time to still like, oh. But yeah, because you get to that and the police investigate. As they go through the movie, you see the police investigation of this historian that was killed by one of these knights. But they separate after that. I want to say the first one was the chase.
I think it was Sir Robin.
No, it was Sir Robin, yeah. Where he's just like,
the tale of Sir Robin.
Now you can get to the minstrel's day. Go for it.
All right. Now quote the. We are no longer the Knights of Nia. We are now. What the hell does he say?
Oh, although this was the three-headed knight that he runs into in this one.
Oh, I know, but I was just wondering if you guys can quote that one.
It's a little hard to remember what took place when in this.
The minstrels definitely. I mean, the first part they come across like typical minstrel starts.
They're singing the praises of Sir Robin, but then he runs into the three-headed knight, and
he runs away like a chicken. They start
brave Sir Robin ran away, bravely ran away.
No, I didn't. Shut up.
When nature reared its ugly head, he bravely tucked his tail and turned his
That is the best scene in the movie. Best. That was hilarious.
Well, the minstrels get eaten later on anyway.
And there was much rejoicing.
And the minstrel keeps getting him in trouble. It's like, oh, this is brave Sir Robin. It's like, no, I'm nobody. Just wanna get through.
Notably, the three-headed knight is one of the few roles Graham Chapman plays other than Arthur. I think he only had like 4 roles in the whole film. And I think Michael Palin had like 12, and all the others fell somewhere in between. But yeah, it was.
It's hard to see that three-headed knight getting anything done, really.
I know they get to bickering, and the others just Oh, these buggered off. Oh, yes, they have.
You got bad breath. It's because you don't brush my teeth.
Right.
Does anybody else have anything to say about the Robin scene? Like, say, Dave, I know you had stuff to say about it, but we weren't there yet. Did you want to talk
Fucking
about it?
hilarious.
Sure, I'll talk about it. But yeah, I liked the Robin scene because it had a lot of humor. I mean, at first it was praising him, and then all of a sudden it was like mocking him.
Yep.
He's like, "No, I'm not," you know. So it was great.
It's also worth noting that all the knights have shields, that the coats of arms on their shields that reflect their personalities. Lancelot has like the crazed, bloodthirsty griffin on his, and Galahad has the Holy Cross, which is supposed to show his chastity, and Robin has a chicken that's running away from the battle. So some great visual humor there. And then Arthur apparently has a son with a mustache on his, which is, fun.
I suppose this could have been like for Mustache Matinee too. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, for the
There
Frenchman,
are some
it's anything.
stashes in here.
Is nobody gonna note on how the minstrel song that Robin is like, okay, that's enough, is like just him describing how Robin could be killed in battle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It had his knees cut out.
It's like, oh, all right, what are you doing? So I didn't know that little touch, but it was something I already knew about. Like it had been spoiled.
Yeah.
Well, I believe the next scene is the Castle Anthrax with our
Was it Galahad next or Lancelot?
Yeah,
No, it was Galahad next because
Yeah, that
Lancelot,
was my favorite part.
Yeah.
that was
And,
a really good part because those women were pretty hot.
he
Yeah.
sees the Grail, of course, and he's like kind of delirious. It's raining,
Yeah.
and so he demands to be let in, and of course they let him in, and it's filled with a bunch of women who seem to be quite
Between
thirsty.
16 and 19 and don't have any men to protect them.
And of course I was like, oh, you're hurt. Well, Nurse Piglet. Then all the names that they give them.
Oh, you're hurt. I'm not hurt there. Well, I am a doctor.
And he's like, oh, I gotta go, and then like kind of talking into stage. I like how it starts off. Like it's filmed so much differently than the rest of the movie. It's like a very like dramatic intro. Like just the way the shot is like framed with like the thunder and the rain and him just like collapsing in the mud. Like it almost looks a little bit like Evil Dead or something.
Yeah, it starts out looking all serious, but definitely doesn't end that way.
Yeah, I like how when the doctors tried to examine him and she listened. Oh, there's nothing wrong there. He tells her there's nothing wrong there.
I also like to see they discover that, of course, they have a Grail shaped beacon that they had turned on, and that was the thing that got him in there.
You're a very, very, very bad girl.
Here at the Castle Anthrax, there was only one punishment for setting light to the Grail-shaped beacon.
You must throw her on the bed and spank her. And then spank me afterwards. And then
You can
and
spank-
me.
The rest of us.
And then, yes, Lancelot comes in and saves the day.
I can handle it. I can handle it myself.
Yeah.
No, I need
I mean,
to
I
thank
can-
you.
I can
Look, I can tackle this one
Like,
single-handed. Yes,
all the
let him tackle us single-handedly.
Oh yes, he can take us good.
My
He can give
goodness.
us a good one.
Please beat them. There's only 150 of them. Yes, we'll beat us easily. We haven't a chance. And then I've always loved the part where he's like, you were in great peril. Well, can't I have a little peril? No, it's too perilous. So yeah, I admit that "Can't I Have a Little Peril" is one quote I've used many a time.
I did like the sign too. Back to the Robin part.
Dragging out of there.
Part. The sign that said "Camelot that way, sure death this way," and this way,
Yeah.
because he was brave at that point.
Now, there was one part I did forget about that did happen in between the two, is where you had Bedivere and Arthur talking to the crazed old man. They didn't have much other than basically being given the direction to seek out the enchanter and
Oh, is that
the
scene
bridge.
24?
In the cave. Yeah. But the reason why I say that is because there's a scene in that part, in the Anthrax part, that I utilize all the time in when I do cuts for my for the show that I use, which is the "Get On With It" thing, which is of course where everybody's saying "Get on with it." I'm really enjoying this scene.
Scene 24. Get on with it.
Right.
Anything else that anybody wants to talk about with the Castle Anthrax?
Like how he changes his mind. I just enjoy. It's like, well, I mean, I guess I could stay a little bit.
Yeah. Admittedly, that is
okay. I was
trap.
wondering. She's greeted at the door by Zoot, and I was wondering about whether I could find this. This was her greeting. "I'm afraid our life must seem very dull and quiet compared to yours. We are but 80 young blondes and brunettes, all between 16 and 19, cut off in this castle with no one to protect us. But it's a lonely life, bathing, dressing, undressing, making underwear." And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, but she's been trying to seduce him, but I don't know.
Only Lancelot would be impervious to that one, which it turns out he is.
Well, which is funny because we go directly from that to the Lancelot.
He's the one that Lancelot is the one that sleeps with Guinevere, so I don't know about that.
This is a different version of Lancelot.
It's a very bloodthirsty version of Lancelot, as you get to tell for the next scene.
Right.
Yeah, he kills 10 people at that random event.
Yeah, he just kills. I'm like, why is he killing all the normal people? He's just killing everyone.
I don't know how I didn't put two and two together, that we've got this and then a very different take on the Arthurian legend next week. It should be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting there. But essentially in this one, in Swamp Castle, you've got this prince who is betrothed to marry a woman with big tracts of land. And but he's not wanting that. He just wants to sing. And they decide... So he ends up sending a distress call, which Lancelot heeds, thinking it's a princess in distress.
Exactly.
Where a bloodbath ensues afterwards.
I do love how every time he tries a thing, his father stops him. I'm like, yes.
Now apparently that they used that as a joke, but apparently they had a song ready to go. Terry Jones was ready to sing it, and he has expressed regret that they never filmed him singing it. But they did end up using that as the running gag, that he would never get to sing the song.
But mother, father.
Right.
But Swamp Castle is an interesting part for me. I've always enjoyed the whole idea of them talking about the swamp there, the incompetent guards who can't seem to understand any instruction.
Everyone said I was daft to build a castle in a swamp.
But
I built it anyway. And
so you have to leave.
So I built another one, and that sank into the swamp. I built another one. That burned down, fell over, then sank into the swamp. But the fourth one, that's what you get to keep. And all this land. Right. I don't want land, Father. I just want to sing.
Now, I do find it funny that when Lancelot comes... Now, you've been reading a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So what was the reasoning behind the whole Lancelot just running at the camera. Then it comes back, it pans back, he's back again and keeps running forward. Then suddenly appears right next to them and starts slaughtering them.
That's just a visual gag. I mean, you know, and it does amuse me. I'll admit.
Yeah, he is a bloodthirsty guy right there.
Right.
All the wedding goers, stuff like that.
He just killed the best man.
Yeah.
And they like come after him. He kills like a bunch more of them, and he tries to like be cool.
And I believe that he's also the one that kills the historian that becomes a running gag throughout the whole thing. So
Was
Well,
him?
we
that
don't
killed
know who
him?
does it because
I don't know if they.
yeah,
ever
because
really-
when he goes up on the bridge of death and answers the questions right off, Arthur and his last surviving knight get up there and they're like, "Where's Lancelot?" And he's getting.
he gets arrested first, but
Yeah, he gets arrested for that historian death.
But I don't
Yeah,
know
but
whether
just
he was the one who
arrested,
did it.
they
Or not.
just
He never said he did it.
It was him who sliced him in his rampage.
Him probably. He was the most likely suspect. That's
Yeah,
for
out of
sure.
all of them, he's the most likely to.
Yeah.
But
Now I am reminded though with Lancelot, he is cut from the same cloth as Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad, where he had that one line when he said, "I love peace with all my heart, and I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to get it."
Right.
I think Lancelot would agree with that.
Well,
Every
the
time I
prince
see
does
that-
get to start singing at the end.
Every
go
time I
ahead.
hear that line, I just remember like Ratcatcher's response. You're called
Yes.
Peacemaker. It's just like heartbroken to hear that. It's like, damn. I need to see that show.
The TV show is great. This from the movie, which he was a douchebag in the movie, even though that scene was funny.
That's the whole episode.
Well,
The show.
the TV show is fucking awesome. I love it. Absolutely hilarious. I was like, why are they using the worst fucking character to make a TV show? And they just pulled it off. Like John Cena just fucking pulled it off so great. You know, he was such a dick in the movie, and I didn't like him in the movie much at all. And the TV show was just great, absolutely great, completely.
I mean, he was the villain in the movie, but he was such a memorable character.
He was not really the villain because he was one of the anti-heroes, like they all were. Because they were all villains. They were all in prison, you know.
He was kind of worse.
He was just the worst dick of them all.
Yeah.
Lancelot does get to get back to the movie.
Sorry.
Lancelot, of course, is chosen by it's like, oh well, this guy can marry and take this as his son is climbing down the rope ladder. He just cuts it. But unluckily
my son, who
for
just
him,
died of falling out of the tower, and then when he finds he's alive, but yet you dropped out of the highest tower.
Lancelot leaves them as he's about to burst into song.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna have one of those guys go over and kill his son too, like he did with the father. Like, your father's dead. I'm not dead yet. Who's nearly dead? No, I think I might make it. Kill him. Oh, who just suddenly died. Yeah, that's a running gag as well in the movie. Every time they say like someone's dead, they're like, "Oh no, that's mortally wounded." Oh no, I think I'll pull through. Like that, that's they did that like 3 times I think. In the movie.
So.
But then
Just
the last, okay,
The cold, icy hand of death.
the last of it was of course, the Knights of Ni with Bedivere and Arthur,
Right.
who come upon them, and they're just basically like, you'll never leave this forest alive, unless you can bring us shrubbery. Yes.
And I admit that
If
was
you don't tell us where we can get a shrubbery, we will say "Need you."
that was one of the bits of humor that I didn't get right away because it involves British humor, but British idioms, but it also is a more mature humor than I necessarily would have had when I first saw this.
Yes.
so definitely going back to it is I love the whole, especially the when they get the shrubberies, they get actual shrubberies, but they continue on with the euphemisms. It is a good shrubbery. I like the laurel particularly, which still works in both manners.
Oh, I need another shrubbery so you can create a little path down the middle and
Right.
and then chop down the tallest tree in the woods with a herring. Which, they were like, yeah, you're not gonna get through this.
Chop the
Yeah.
tall trees.
That's a bridge too far for them,
It's a very dark saying if you actually know about it.
What's that?
That just made me think of this thing from some point in history called "Chop the Tall Trees," and like some podcasts I listen to, they say it like as a joke to like point out if something is like really like offensively fascist or authoritarian, and it just came to mind like whenever tree chopping is involved. Actually, I should look it up again.
I guess the fact that they were doing it with a herring is continuing the sexual innuendo.
Yes. I did like how they're sitting there trying to get the shrubbery, and they're basically using knee as a way to torture somebody. But Bedivere keeps getting it wrong. No,
It's me. Yeah.
Oh, it's just what was it that one guy said? Something like, "It is a dark day when passing ruffians can say me."
To an old lady. Wait, what did you say you were? You sell shrubberies?
I am a shrubber. My name is Roger the Shrubber.
Roger the Shrubber.
Yes, it's a fun, and then of course we are no longer the knights who say me, and then you hear one of them go me.
Yeah, I think it was like icky patang, something else. I can't think of the full thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If anyone can quote what they said afterwards,
Right.
what they're called.
Right.
And,
But then
and
they accidentally-
all Arthur says was the night that were formerly called me.
Right. They Arthur and Bedivere, of course, accidentally stumble upon the knight's weakness. They don't really quite catch what it is, but it works.
You said it. I said it.
Yes.
We cannot say what it is. Well, how do we know what the word is not to say if we don't know what it is? He said it again.
But they do manage to get through. Any other stuff about the Knights of Me that we wish to go before we regroup with all our knights again?
Probably the most quoted scene I think ever in the movie, as far as from what I've personally experienced everywhere. Like I said about that guild that I was in and everything. So
there are a couple of things that go through in this that are animated. I can't remember where they go. Some of the ones, like there's this one part where you've got this monk who is writing a script, and he ends up having all this crazy stuff going on. He notices the sun and the clouds are jumping up and down, and he basically shushes them until night falls, which is odd. And
that was very odd.
then you have
I kind of didn't get that. He goes, "Damn weather,"
then you hear like the
So
monks.
I think it was a joke on how bad the weather is in England, in England. Because of always foggy and rainy and stuff. So
Well, and actually, one of the reasons why they had such a rough and miserable time making the movie is, again, they made the film in Scotland. And Don Cleese has said more than once that he thinks Scotland has maybe 2 dry weeks in the fall. And that's it. It's like the rest of the year is cold and rainy. That's like, yeah. From what I hear, England's not much better. But
no, from my heart, it's very foggy.
But the other one is the monks kind of like jumping into some sort of weird pool. And they use this as kind of chapter breaks. And of course, they do the story summary of them getting together, but the minstrels get eaten.
Yes.
I didn't mention when they did Galahad how they had like this guy like go upside down and his bare ass is showing to the woman. Thing. A little animated thing for the G. I don't know. Yeah, that was weird, but I remember that.
But yeah, we do have that little story scene where you have the what was it? Spring became summer, and summer became fall, and
they skipped it all. It came right back to again. Yes.
yeah. It's like spring gave summer a miss and went straight into autumn or something like that. And it's yeah, I always found that kind of amusing. And yes, there is that part in there with the they were reunited. There was much rejoicing. Yay. And then somewhere along the line, Sir Robin's minstrels were eaten, and there was much rejoicing. Yay. Yeah.
But we are... Yeah, go ahead.
Hmm?
Oh. I was just going to go into the Enchanter, who is just randomly blowing stuff up, which is kind of funny. And,
right.
But of course, that line, they call me Tim.
There were some who
Tim
called
the Enchanter.
Tim?
But he tells of the cave that they need to go through.
Well, he knows who he is too. He knows he's out there and what he's looking for, and he's like, "How do you know so much?"
Well, he's the wise enchanter, and then of course he's got the cave of Ah, and but it's guarded by a ferocious beast.
Mm-hmm.
You had me piss in my pants.
Nasty, big, pointy teeth.
You know what's funny is I used to actually have bunny slippers of that rabbit, and they would have the pointy teeth and the giant mouth, like bouncing as you walk. As a younger person, that was my favorite part of the movie: the absurdity of a little rabbit tearing through all these knights. Look at the bows.
Yeah, you know, behind the rabbit, it is the rabbit. Yeah.
That little thing.
Yeah.
Go and chop a tail off.
They have to use the holy hand grenade in order to take it out.
Yes, this is one of the relics Brother Maynard carries. And yes, this was one of my favorite parts too, because like I said, I really loved the whole thing with Dennis because they were taking the piss out of politics and the monarchy. This one, they're really taking the piss out of the way the Bible.
Oh gosh, yeah, the Book of Armaments.
And Saint Attila raised the grenade up on high, saying, "O Lord, bless this thy hand grenade, that with it thou must blow thine enemies to tiny bits in thy mercy." And the Lord did good, and the people did be feast upon the lambs and slows and carp. And then, like, Brother Maynard actually makes him skip a bit, brother. And then you get the instructions. And the Lord spake, saying, "First shalt thou take out the holy pin. Then shalt thou count to 3. No more, no less.
No less.
3 shall be the number thou shalt count, and the number of counting shall be 3. 4 shalt thou not count, neither count thou 2, excepting that thou then proceed to 3. 5 is right out. Once the number 3, being the third number, be reached." and then finally, shall snuff it. But just like, if anyone who's read any of like the genealogies and stuff that's in the Bible, it's like, oh man, I just love how they did include something like that.
Actually, I could see a Book of Armaments in like an American copy of the Bible. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, well, we found it here in Arkansas.
I can believe that.
But yeah, that was. It's also funny that Arthur can't really count, and they show that a couple of times.
Right. 3, sir.
So I don't know how many of you have played this game, but there's a computer game called Worms that is a nice little fun strategy game where you have a bunch of worms fighting each other. And they actually have wacky weapons that they use, like the exploding sheep and the banana bomb. But they also have the holy hand grenade that when it is used, it actually lands on the enemy, and then it does a brief hallelujah before blowing up.
I remember Worms 2 from Hasbro, if I remember correctly, the name of the company that actually had it.
I remember I had it. It was like Worms 3D. It was like an Xbox 360 game. I did have that for a little while.
But yeah, and my first Worms game was Worms Armageddon, which was very cartoony but very hilarious with the various voice acting, and just you had an old lady that you could set on your enemies and she exploded.
Nice. I feel like you might have shown me this game. It sounds like something you would have shown me.
But yeah, as far as that, the rabbit does get beaten. Does anybody else have anything else to say about the rabbit fight and Tim the Enchanter? Let's see. What about you, Forrest? I haven't heard from you in a little while. What do you think? I'm sure that you found that funny. I figure so.
No, absolutely.
Rabbit.
So, Dustin.
It's a bizarre. It's so yeah. It's just. I mean, it's so absurd, but so
Yes.
it's so silly and stupid, but it just fucking laugh out loud hilarious.
So Dustin and Ron, I know you two are the ones who are kind of the outliers with the humor here. What did y'all think about this rabbit? As far as that, did y'all find humor in this one?
The rabbit with pointy teeth, which I believe this was a segment I was asleep for, so I don't really remember it. However, I have seen merchandise of the rabbit with big pointy teeth, literally everywhere. So
I think that's a scene that you would enjoy, just because not only that, but the satire on religion there as well, I think would appeal to you.
the whole hand grenade thing sounded pretty funny.
Now, I thought, yeah, I liked how they were complaining how he was saying it's so ferocious and big and stuff. That was kind of funny. They were ribbing them, and then when the bunny just totally destroys them. And yeah, I've seen the merchandise for the bunny all over. And again, I didn't remember where it come from. So
a Lovecraft monster.
Yeah, I do. And Xena did a spoof of it, where Gabrielle was ate a berry that basically makes you trip, and this, she sees this cute little bunny, and then the bunny, like a vicious rabbit, attacks her and chewing at her, and she's trying to get it off, and it's vicious as hell, and she comes back and tells Xena and Jocks her, and they're kind of, Jocks is making fun of her and stuff and all, but it was obviously they were parodying that scene in the movie. So
well, they do go into the cave of Og, which they read this text. They bring the translator in to see it, and they're like, they're trying to figure out what that is and how it's pronounced. Is like, they wouldn't do that. I mean, he wouldn't be writing it as he died or anything like that. And then they see the monster, which, by the way, I have a plushie of the monster. A friend of mine gave me a plushie of it that has a pull string on it back in the day. So I still have it sitting there and guarding the cave in my movie room. But thankfully for them, the animator had a heart attack, so they were able to get away. What are y'all's thoughts about the Cave of R and the monster? Oh, there you go.
It's good times. There's a whole debate about would he really carve out R?
Yeah. Well, you never know. It is a Python sketch, so.
So, Brandon, do you have a way to bring this up? I just remembered this. I thought I would show it real quick.
Let's see here. Where are you at? There you go.
There we go. That was when we were in Outer Banks. We went to the Lost Colony Cafe Brewery. Had to try that. It was good stuff. Had to get the shirt too.
Oh, I remember that trip. But yes, they do make it through the cave, and then have one of their final major obstacles, which is the bridge, with the old man that Arthur and Bedivere had met before. And he is there. They have to answer his 3 questions and go. Which it's Lancelot goes up first because he's not afraid at all, and it's just basically, what is your name? What is your quest? What is your favorite color? And then the guy is able to easily answer it. So then, of course, Robin.
Off you go then.
See, and then Robin goes up there, and he's thinking he's going to get it, and then it's like, what is the capital of Assyria? And you get to see what happens if you get it wrong, you get catapulted into the ravine.
What is your favorite color? Blue. No, green. Bam.
They dispatch most of the knights of the Round Table right there. Good happen.
Yeah, but Arthur got him. You know, which one was it? Which swallow is it?
And what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
I don't know that.
More details.
European swallow or an African swallow? I don't know. Oh shit!
But they're able to cross that very rickety bridge.
Right? I'm like, wow, that bridge needs a guard. Like the bridge itself is a guard.
You gotta wonder if the actors are in any danger with that side of thing going, because they did have to cut some corners. So
With what?
With that bridge, they did cut some corners there.
That was one trivia that I did read. That was quite interesting. That was apparently one of the first things they shot, and they didn't know it at the time, or not everyone knew it at the time, that Graham Chapman was already dealing with alcoholism. And they were way out in the boonies, and he didn't have a way to have a drink before filming. So he apparently was going through severe DTs when they filmed those shots, and he couldn't cross the bridge by the end of it. So they had to have someone else as a stand-in for that scene. But yeah, it was apparently that and a couple of other points. There were where Tim is standing on the ledge, and a couple other points where they were actually putting themselves out there physically.
They needed some stunt doubles.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind they had to make this for very little. So.
Oh, I know.
Right.
They probably didn't have the money for stunt doubles. I'm just saying.
So I posted on Twitter. Is it bad that I don't enjoy Monty Python? Because I feel bad, but I don't. And I think the best reply I've gotten just now is, it was of its time and that time's long gone. I say this as someone who really loves them.
I do think that the Pythons cannot be viewed through a modern light.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I don't view anything to do with modern light at all.
Well, like I say, presentism does have its place, but not.
Does it?
Well, it does. It does in some lenses, but it all depends. I look at it as more of a philosophical thing than they should have known in the 1800s that saying the N-word was bad. That's kind of.
In the 1800s, it's just the thing is words are words. There are words don't hurt. They don't. I mean, you can have feelings towards that word that you feel like you're hurt, but that's just your feelings being hurt, and that's you, and it has nothing to do with the person that actually said it. Just you feel about that word, It's not a stick, it's not stones. It doesn't hurt you,
Well, I can safely say that even the most accepted movie, if you look hard enough, has something blatantly offensive in it.
Exactly. That's the point. Everything is offensive to somebody somewhere down the line, and just don't get caught up in your feels. Just suck it up, Buttercup. Like, come on,
But
not that big of a deal.
but with this, they do get across the bridge, and they have this like kind of ghost ship thing that takes them across the water to this island with the castle where the Grail is. And they get this indication the Grail is in there. And who should greet them at the top of the castle? But the
They're
Frenchmen.
Hello.
This time they actually, when they're trying to break in, they end up basically throwing their crap buckets on them.
Right.
So Arthur does. Arthur's like, okay, I'm through with this. So he gets an army, and they're getting ready to charge.
Now we attack.
Yes, and this army that he magically summons up out of
Nowhere.
ever.
Hey, he's king of the Britons. He could do that.
That's true.
Who's
But,
the Britons? Well, we are.
Unfortunately, he's not above the police because they come and arrest him.
The police that somehow have a magical horse called a car in a truck. So I don't know how they had that in the 1600s or 1500s. But
And I'll admit, this was the part that when I first saw the movie,
Yeah.
I was like, "Holy crap! I love that movie," but that was the dumbest friggin' ending I'd ever seen.
Oh, I totally agree. I did not find the ending funny at all.
yeah, the ending was the police showing up and taking them. I go, well, that was an odd ending.
It has grown on me. I know some of the reasons why they did that. Obviously, they couldn't afford a proper battle sequence.
I think it was also a snub at the guerrilla filmmaking industry as well.
Oh, literally gorilla with the hand put in a pan.
Because if you're using like a land or property that you're not supposed to be using, this is what happens. You get arrested or thrown off the property or whatever, you know? So
There might have been that. That would be not a stab at that industry so much as the people that cause trouble for them, right?
right.
Well, and I would say that this one has grown on me a little bit over the years because I understand the setup and all that, but at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, oh, they could have figured out a better ending than that. but
Right.
Yeah.
What about the rest of y'all? What did y'all think of this ending?
Like I said, yeah.
Because it's abruptly.
It's abrupt.
Yeah,
and funny.
that's why I said I didn't say it was odd. That's an odd ending. I don't find the ending funny or anything. It's just kind of odd ending. I mean, I think they could have done better, but again, I don't really hold the movie in higher esteem. But the ending actually just doesn't really fit for the rest of the movie, in my opinion. I think it would be better just to show them like running at the castle and the French guys kind of laughing because they don't even have a door for them or a battering ram to break down the door. So yeah, there's a bunch of people that are gonna hit the stone walls with their swords. I mean, just because they had an army, they still doesn't even show how they would get through.
That castle's prepared for a siege. All they got is this little door.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think that would been more funny to see them running at it and maybe just trying to hit the wall with the swords or whatever, and then end it like that. Because that's what I expected. That's what I thought they were gonna do, and then they ran, and then the cops. Okay.
So you could have had them running away after the French repelled them, and one of the guards is drinking out of the Grail and laughing at them.
Yeah, I thought the ending was kind of.
Of course, John Cleese is great.
It was very abrupt, yeah. I was kind of like, wait, what's happening? Oh, it's over.
Now I think there is a callback there that I appreciate. Especially if it's an intentional callback. Because again, early in the film, they said, "Yeah, how do you know he's a king?" Well, he hasn't got shit all over him. And then, of course, at the end, he gets shit all over him, and then he gets arrested right after that. So, I guess in a way that was kind of a fun callback. But I will admit, yeah, there's the film ends with a whimper. Like you get all these laugh a minute for most of the film, with a few stretches, especially towards the end, that get a little less funny. It's a laugh every 20 seconds for the first 6 minutes of the film, 10 minutes of film, and then you got this ending. And it's one of the reasons why I say Life of Brian's a better movie, because that one ends on a high note. I mean, that's one of the best endings. And this one, yeah.
Tammy, you were saying something. You kind of got cut off. So
No, I was saying I
Sorry.
agree that the ending is just like really, off the wall here. It just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to
Makes sense.
fit.
to me, I didn't like the pacing in Life of Brian as much as I did here. But yes, I do say that I do agree that the ending was better. Life of Brian.
Never saw it.
Life of Brian Brian had stretches in it that I got bored during, but it still had some good funny parts to it for me.
I have to agree with you on Life of Brian. It was kind of a snooze fest.
That ending thing where he's doing the always look on the bright side of life.
Right.
Yes, that is the way to end a movie. It's just like how Meaning of Life. That's the way to open a movie.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie could kind of toss itself, but that movie itself, I do like how they opened it. But with that being said, that was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Was there anything else that y'all wanted to talk about with regard to the plot before we move on to the production?
Oh, that's a good joke. I'm sorry, it didn't come up that way.
Well, I guess let's go on to the production design. I do feel like, yes, this is a low budget film, but darned if they didn't work with that budget and they weren't creative with it.
Yeah.
It looks quite good. Like there's nothing that there's nothing that breaks my suspension of disbelief, which I admit is really, really strong, and that's very, very hard to do. Like only a couple movies have kind of knocked me into reality. Like it's very rare there's something that's like, okay, that effect is too bad, this is bullshit, or that makes no sense. I am suddenly aware I am watching a movie and these are actors, not characters. Like there weren't any moments like that. Force Awakens is the last movie that really did that to me. It's like, oh, okay, like I can see why he died, because they wanted to save money. It's like, yeah. But no, the effects in this are pretty good. The animated sequences like really add a lot. I think it's there's a game that Xbox is advertising called, I think it's the Incanati or something like that. And the premise is it's animated in the style of those medieval like margin doodles. Which we got some animated versions of those in this movie, like during one of those transitions with them like just jumping into off that cliff.
Right.
And it made me think of that, and I was like, oh, that's really well done. So
that's kind of animation that's all throughout the Python universe, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that Monty Python has a distinct and unique style to their animation that they do. I mean, oftentimes they'll have like sometimes like the Mona Lisa running away from the audience or some shit like that. Like it's just crazy.
Well, and the artwork does carry on to Gilliam's other works. I mean, you can see it, especially in Munchausen. You can see it.
Oh.
You can see it actually in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. You can see it. Yeah.
Right. Well, Gilliam definitely he handled the animation sequences on the show, and he did the animation sequences in this one. And I believe even though Jones was credited as sole director beyond this film, I think Gilliam was still the animation director for each film. But the big issue they had here was he wanted to direct the film the way that he did his animations, and everyone else was like, no, we want to do it the way this guy wants to do it. But if you look at Gilliam's films, you can see that he really does have a unique visual sense. Like, his films are really heavily influenced by animation, I think. And of course, you can pick up other influences too. Like, one of the cool things about this one, as far as the production goes, is the film was largely bankrolled by rock stars from Britain. Apparently, for tax purposes, they decided to sink a bunch of money into a movie. George Harrison was well known for being a huge fan of Monty Python. But Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Genesis all put money into this film. And I think Gilliam was returning the favor, because I still think Brazil has so many visual cues from the wall, it's not even funny. And yeah.
So Forrest, you were saying something that kind of got drowned out. Sorry, man.
Sorry.
No, I didn't.
I think you were saying something about
the
Gilliam.
ending. I was disagreeing then about it's an abrupt ending, but I think it was a pretty fun. It was I thought it was a pretty it was a very abrupt but very funny way to end the film. And also I was agreeing about the opening of Meaning of Life.
Yes, indeed. Did you have anything about the production value on this, or?
Yeah, you have to agree. This movie, for a low budget movie, it had really good production value. Especially like with the villages, the castles, the costumes. Obviously, they couldn't afford the horses, but all the budget for the animals probably went to the duck.
Yeah.
And the rabbit. Apparently,
Yes,
they
rabbit.
found a lady who lived nearby who let them borrow their rabbit, and they used red paint, like non-toxic paint, but they used red paint for the blood, and she apparently was very put out because she got a bloody-looking rabbit back.
Oh, they didn't even clean it up for her?
They tried, but it didn't work as well as they thought.
Oh man, that reminds me of when I first moved to Milwaukee. I had a pet snake, and I had like a big bag of frozen mice in the freezer for the snake. And because I didn't really like think about it too much, I had them in the same cooler as like my frozen foods. And this big bag of strawberries like leaked in the cooler, and so there ended up being a problem. They wouldn't allow the snake in the apartment after saying that the snake was okay to live here. And so I had to like emergency give the snake away to my cousin. And so I give my cousin like all the snake's equipment. I hand him the snake. And then I hand him this like completely like soaked red, like dripping red stuffed bag of like frozen mice. And like I can't even describe it.
Nice.
That is hilarious.
Like, it's strawberries, I swear. He's like,
Yeah, sure it is. Did you chop these up, the mice yourself?
So, what about the music in this? I thought that the music still.
Hold on a second. I didn't say anything about production.
Okay.
I thought their $100 that they had, they did okay with, and that's all I have to say about production.
Yeah, they worked hard hard with it, though. That is for sure.
I just wanted to, point my 2 cents in.
So, music. What did y'all think of the music in this film?
With the exception of one song, it sucked, but that one song was so hilarious, worth listening to, even by itself.
Oh, I love the music
Which
with this.
Dave so happily put it into the chat for us. The Robin song. Thank you, Dave, because that song is just awesome.
Yeah. The
I
songs
liked
were
it.
really good. They weren't as good as Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, but they were good and they fit the movie, I think. And then the music itself, I think
Yeah.
it fit the film well.
I think that they had like a pretty good, as far as background music. It felt right for what you were watching. Anybody else?
Yeah, I really like the score for this. Also but also the songs were very funny, like the Sir Robin and Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I get a kick out of all the songs too. I couldn't stop laughing with the Robin one though.
Yeah.
Here too.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess that wraps up the movie. So, since we usually do favorite scene and some other oddity, why don't we do favorite scene and favorite Python work? So, I guess that'd be between the movies and Flying Circus. So, I guess we will start with Forrest.
All right. So favorite. Okay. So favorite. Oh, geez. There's way too many moments. There's way too many moments I found funny in this movie. The witch trial. The killer rabbit. Oh God. At the beginning when they go to the castle with the French. When they're crossing the bridge of death. Actually, the Black Knight. God, it's just too many to pick. There's just too many moments to pick from this. But favorite thing for Python, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Probably maybe either. I would say. For me, I would probably say what the meaning of life. Especially the scene with the Irish Catholic family.
Oh yes, every sperm is
Sperm is
sacred.
sacred.
It's incredible.
Actually, that one had a lot of good songs in it too.
Yes.
All right. So next up is, let's see here. I guess Dustin, favorite scene and favorite Python project.
Well, I don't think I've really seen. This might be the only Monty Python thing I've seen. So I guess I would have to say this by default. Although, well, okay. So there used to be like infomercials for Buy Monty Python on DVD. And the one that they would always replay was "This parrot is no more. It has ceased to
Yes.
be."
Yes, the parrot scene.
And I think that might be my favorite thing. And oh man, I've already forgotten his name. Sir Guy. What was that?
Yeah,
Sir Guyver? Was that it?
the guy who was in the Castle Anthrax. I think it was
Yes.
Galahad.
Galahad.
Okay. I don't know how I forgot. I feel bad now. Anyway, that was probably my favorite part that I was conscious for.
A spanking.
The witch trials, and he's like, well, I don't know. Well, okay, maybe. But like he talks himself into it. The witch trial was pretty funny too. It's like, this isn't my nose. It's a fake that they just stuck on, and he just kind of like carefully, like he expects it to bite him almost. Just kind of tilts it up, and he's like, hey, wait. So I mean, there are good things in this movie, and there's a lot of what everybody else laughs hysterically at, and it's just like, why didn't this work on me? Like, I feel bad that I didn't love this movie. Like, I genuinely do.
Maybe you'll go back with another time when you're like there, and you'll catch some of the other things that are the religious satire and stuff, and that might hit you better.
Yeah,
Actually,
I did watch this immediately after Total Recall, so maybe that's my
Life of Brian might hit you a little bit differently too, so that might be one because it's very different tonally.
Oh,
That one goes hardcore into the religious satire, and that's fun.
And that one, and along with this movie, that's another Easter must watch for me.
Right.
I say I always watch Life of Brian next to Holy Moses. All right, next up is Tammy.
Okay. Well, I guess for Monty Python things movies, this one will always be my favorite because my dad. So as far as scenes, oh boy. Well, I love the rabbit one because I remember the first time I watched this, I'm expecting some big old monster and it's a rabbit. But I just kind of looked at my dad like, what? Just like he got the same reaction out of me when the cow came flying over the wall of the French. So I like that one too. And I guess anytime they're on the horses, I just get a kick out of that. There's no horses, So that's it.
Oh. All right. Let's see here. Kroll. Your favorites. You're on mute. I don't know if that makes a difference. All right. Well, we'll come back to you. All right, Jake.
All right. Well, I got to agree with Forrest. There's so many moments in this one. It is really hard to pick a number one. I could probably name 20 that I want to mention, but if I had to go with the very, very, very tip top, it would be Dennis's speech on the fallacy of the Arthurian legend, the holy hand grenade of Antioch, the readings from the Book of Armaments, basically, and probably the French taunter saying your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. Those would probably be my top moments. But there are several that come really close. There's the witch scene, and yeah, there's some good stuff. The Sir Robin song, and all those. And it's only a model. Oh yes, and are you suggesting Coconuts Migrate has to be on the top too? So there's that. As far as overall Python stuff, that's hard to choose too. If I were to look at an overall, like, say this is their funniest movie, I'd go with The Holy Grail. If I say this is their best movie, I'd go with Life of Brian. But if we're looking at individual moments throughout the series, the moments I just mentioned, always look on the bright side of life from Life of Brian. The part where he's writing on the wall of the government building and the Centurion tells him to do it 100 times. A couple of those parts. Every sperm is sacred for Meaning of Life. The dead parrot sketch from the Flying Circus. There's some good stuff.
All right. Ron, are you back?
I am. I guess I got called out, huh? had to run to the bathroom real quick, but yeah.
No, what is favorite scene and favorite Python project?
Okay. I cannot answer the project one. This is the only one I've seen, and we already know my opinion on it. So, so I don't really have an answer for that. As far as scene, like I said, the scene with the guy, the old guy that's not dead, and the guy's trying to throw him into the cart, and he's like, but I'm not dead, and he's like, well, nearly dead. And I know this became a running joke for the first time you see it, and this I believe is just the funniest use of it. Even though the other scenes were funny using it, this was the best, I believe. And it was just and then finally the the handler just takes a hammer and smacks the guy. I don't think he killed him. I think he just knocked him out.
I am
On the
happy.
cart. But either way, that is pretty funny. That was a pretty funny scene. And then, well, the song, as I've said a few times already, the song, the brave part, the brave was funny. But then when he ran away, that was even funnier. So I laughed a lot the brave part, and then I laughed even louder at the running away. So I did not notice the chicken on the shield. If I ever watch the movie again, I'll look for that because that will make me laugh even more. I do admit that, like I said, the movie wasn't as funny to me as you guys, but talking to you guys about it is funnier than watching the movie. So if you can forget about the movie itself and just go by people's emotions and reactions to the movie for the most part, it's fun. Like I think this chat with you guys about the movie was more fun than the movie.
Actually, sometimes even talking about something like this, when you go back to it later on, it brings more humor into certain scenes.
Yeah, that could be true. I don't
It's
think
good that we got a mixture of ideas here. It wasn't a love fest.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love to love movies. I try to love everything I watch, or TV shows, or anything, and or at least I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't love it. I don't get the fandom. I really don't. I mean, I guess I get that some people would like it. Obviously, and some people like the humor, but it's so friggin' huge, and I just don't. I don't get that. And because of this movie, I've never watched any other Monty Pythons because I'm like, yeah, I'm just good. So maybe I would like one of them. I don't know because I've never seen them. But yeah, so those are my favorites and my opinion on the franchise.
Well, Dave, favorite scene and favorite Python project?
Oh God, there are so many different small snippets that I just automatically love from this film. The witch scene, the I'm not dead, I'm not dead, the PAACU Domine smack, and then we are the Knights of Neat. Go find us a shrubbery, So, and I do like the fact that the old man at the bridge when he doesn't get an answer right, he gets off the bridge. So
right.
But yeah, there are just so many small moments. It's hard not to laugh at certain moments. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe when you've seen it 100 times, the humor gets a little dull over time, but it's still a nice rewatch. Because if you get the humor, I mean, of course, when you're a kid, you don't really really understand some things, but when you're an adult, you understand them, and they were trying to do things like nobody had ever tried to do on screen before. So, and so to me, Monty Python broke many, rules. So, and they kind of became known for it. So, yeah.
All right. Well, for me, it's pretty. It's actually pretty simple. It used to be a toss-up between the rabbit scene and the Black Knight scene almost always, but I admit, I've actually had, I thought about it and I said, I'll try one that almost everybody does not know, or does not think about, which is the opening credits. Because to me, it sets the tone of the movie so well. Because if you get the humor there, you'll start to get the humor for the rest of the movie. And it just, I don't know, it was my first laughs in the movie, and that definitely sets it up. As far as my favorite Python project, this is probably my favorite, but if I was to go for a second, I'd probably go with Flying Circus. Flying Circus is uneven, but it also has some of the best laughs of Python hidden in there. So it's very there. I mean, you've got like all sorts of things there, like Ministry of Silly Walks, the parrot sketch, the albatross thing,
Spanish Inquisition.
Spanish Inquisition. So many things that are from that just make it. And of course, if you want to see a summary of some of the best sketches from Flying Circus, the movie, and now for something completely different, is basically that pretty much.
Since you mentioned credits, I would like to. Court Jester has the best, funniest credits I've ever seen in my life. I absolutely. I mean, the second I started seeing the credits, I started laughing. Even the first time I saw the movie, I started laughing. So that movie is funny from the second to the end, and the ending credits, same thing. So from the beginning credits to the ending credits, and all the way in between, I laugh. I watched that movie. So
Real quick, speaking of other Python projects, and this, I guess, is particularly directed at our resident New Yorker here, but for anyone, did anyone get a chance to see Spamalot?
Unfortunately, I have not.
Yeah, I wanted to. I would have loved to have seen that, but yeah.
It's been here occasionally, but
yeah,
it's been in the Altria Theater.
I'm not good at going to see shows. Wish I was.
I've only seen one there, so
I'd like to go see Phantom of the Opera, but since it's about to close, but getting tickets is impossible.
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm going to hand this back to Dave for the outros.
Alrighty. Hopefully you out there who have been listening and tagging along with us have enjoyed our discussion on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So let us know down in the comments what you thought, and we'll see you next week with, I believe, First Night, which is a cool companion film to this one. So
and Tammy's birthday.
Yeah. So happy birthday, young lady.
Thank you. You can tell me again next week.
Even though it's next week Tuesday, but
you are really trying to get brownie points, huh? Young lady.
Why not?
Okay, I'm the one who has to deal with her at the end of the day, so I've got to throw those charming words.
Only 29.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's go around and do our outros. So, Forrest, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name is Forrest Bennett, independent film producer and actor based in Long Island, New York. Had a movie come out a few months ago called Amityville Thanksgiving, and we're also worked on the most recent entry in the Camp Blood series. I also appear in the upcoming Trauma movie, Bring on the Damned. And you can also find me on Instagram under My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic book pickups. I've always got something going on in the pipeline.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Kroll. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Well, I don't work. I'm disabled. I am working on a business thing. Using blogging to do affiliate marketing. So I'll update on how that's going as we go along, and I like playing video games and watching movies, reading when I have a chance. Actually, have had a lot less free time trying to do something that can make me money. Because yeah, money can be a good thing sometimes, especially when you don't have it. So, and I come on this podcast, and I come on podcast on Sunday, and other podcasts are here and there, and the anime once a month. Yeah, I love talking about movies and TV shows I watch. Don't really get to talk about the TV shows I watch too much, because I guess I have different tastes than most people I know. Yeah. Or we have the same taste, but they refuse to watch them until after they're done. No. So I never get to talk to them about crap, except for we did have a nice discussion on Stranger Things. But yeah, I enjoy these podcasts. I don't have a YouTube myself. Like I said, I'm around, so you can see me or hear me, and yeah.
Alrighty,
My
cool. Heading over to you, Dustin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I collect horror movies and anything horror related here in Milwaukee, and we're trying to expand into doing some more stuff. So I have a YouTube channel called The Crypt of Horrors, which I'm working on transitioning into just Cryptaxis because it's easier to search and a lot less of a mouthful. I have a handful of things I'm kind of working on. I've shot a lot of videos, and I just need to have time to sit down and make them go live. But that's in weirdly short supply as I've been looking for work for a while. Also working on doing some additional writing because I used to be good at that. So I haven't written anything for a couple years, and I showed somebody, it's like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, this is terrible. I can't believe anyone ever said you were good at this. It's like, wow, okay. So that kind of set me back, but yeah. So
that's rough.
Yeah, it was messed up. It bothered me for quite a while. But anyway, all that aside, so you can see my horror movie stuff on my YouTube channel. I also have an Instagram where I'm a lot more of a frequent poster. Also, The Crypt of Horrors. And I'm on Twitter as Cryptaxis. I would like to have just Cryptaxis, but it's a long story. Some idiot has that. So yeah, if you want to, interact with me, I'm on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube. So yeah, that's about it. I did have a Facebook page for my channel, but it disappeared out of nowhere, and I don't know what happened to it, and Facebook won't tell me. So, yeah. But anyway, yep, that's me. Subscribe to my stuff. Give me reasons to keep making content.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm your fiance. Do I have to admit that? Oh, okay.
No.
And I go on this channel and another one, and then talk about movies. And I enjoy going on with everybody for the two different places. It makes it a lot of fun. I have my own collection of movies, and that's really about it, especially at this time of the year. So,
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right, I'm Kotobukijake. I am a movie and general media fan and collector here in Central Virginia, where I am the co-host of the YouTube channel SeptumSin vs. World, where we talk about all sorts of physical media and collecting and so on and so forth. And we have been kind of light on content for a couple of weeks, but for this, that, and the other reason. But I'm very much looking forward to our anime discussion this month of Karin, which From what we understand already, we'll have a similarly bipolar commentary to tonight's. Should be interesting. Although that's a much lesser known title overall. And I generally am very busy with this, that, or the other. I do work a full-time gig. I also am the co-founder of RVA Homegrown Natives, which is a local native plant nursery. And we're getting ready to start our busy season. Probably a month from now will be the big kind of getting underway with that. Just hoping and praying that we don't have really horrid weather messing that up in the meantime. And also just try when I get the opportunity to watch some stuff to come on and join these fine folks for our discussions weekly. I very much was looking forward to doing this one, of course, and I look forward to next week's. And we should have a few fun ones coming up, so that'll be it'll be good times.
You got a birthday pick coming up the next week. So.
Do indeed, yes. It'll be slightly different. We'll be doing 2 Arthurian legend films, and then moving forward to talk about the Irish mob in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey.
Woo!
Tell me the Jersey Devil is involved.
What's that?
I said, tell me the Jersey Devil is involved if it's set in the Pine Barrens.
No,
I
but the mob
believe
is.
so.
Oh, much fun.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm SeptumSin of SeptumSin versus the World. We are all about physical media on our channel. As Jake said, we kind of just pared things down for a little bit, but hopefully we'll return in a stronger fashion as time goes on and things calm down in life. But we are working on some fun stuff like our upcoming discussion, and we had an interesting discussion on Voltron that was kind of polarized in its own fashion on the channel. And I'm also a part of Schlockaholics, which we just do similar discussion of movies with our movie this past week being Carousel, which is a fun movie about a carousel horse that comes to life and starts killing people to get revenge on the people who mistreat carousel horses. But otherwise, that's about the whole of it. We're going to be talking about the Shackled Demon project on Let's Get Cinematic. I believe that's going to be next week as well. So that's going to be... so I've got a lot of stuff lined up, definitely.
Alrighty, and my name is David Struggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this pleasant journey where we had a lot of fun doing it. So thank you so much. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also podcast just like we do here, but we cover a lot of fairly different ground and sometimes similar paths. So check us out on Sundays on Delusions of Grandeur. But Kroll and I were just recently did a pickup video on the channel, so definitely check that out if you get a chance. We definitely have a lot of things to look forward to. So like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. So everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Right.
All right. Ciao.
Faites lavage.
Always look on the bright